Hello everyone and welcome back to another full English grammar in use video with me. This video will be our last video from the series Full English Grammar in Use, but there are plenty of other videos on grammar lessons that you can watch on this playlist as well. In this lesson, we are going to learn about relative clauses. First, we'll be looking at what clauses are, relative clauses, relative pronouns, defining and modifying relative clauses, zero relative pronoun, and extra notes. At the end of the video, we will also have some exercises to practice. So, let's begin. In order to know what relative clauses are, we must first know what the word clause means. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Clauses can either be independent or dependent. But what does that mean? Independent clauses can stand on their own as a complete sentence. They express a complete meaning or thought. They've got a subject and a verb, and they do not rely on any other clauses to make sense. They make sense on their own. For example, I went to the store. They are leaving. She ate her sandwich. Our subjects and verbs are clear, and there are no other clauses needed for these sentences to make sense. They already make sense. But dependent clauses cannot stand alone as a complete sentence because they don't express a complete meaning or thought. It seems as if they lack something. They rely on an independent clause to make sense and to form a complete sentence. Dependent clauses often start with subordinating conjunctions like because, if, when, although, etc. For example, I couldn't go out because it was raining. I'll take you to the concert if you pass your exam. In these examples, the second sentence relies on the first sentence to make sense and to form a complete meaning. Because these sentences, because it was raining, and if you pass your exam, do not make any sense on their own. It seems as if they're incomplete and they need another clause to complete them. In a nutshell, independent clauses can function on their own to form a complete meaning and a sentence, but dependent clauses cannot function on their own and they need other clauses to make sense and to complete their meaning. Now let's see what a relative clause is. A relative clause is a type of dependent clause that provides information about the noun or pronoun of the main clause. It tells us which person or thing or what kind of person or thing the speaker is talking about or means. A relative clause also gives us extra information about them. It tells us something related to that person or thing of the main clause. So, a relative clause functions as an adjective and helps us to identify or describe our noun. Relative clauses are introduced by relative pronouns or adverbs. Who, whom, whose, which, that, or relative adverbs where, when, why. Let me show you them in some examples. The man who lives next door is a doctor. The relative pronoun who introduces the relative clause who lives next door. It provides information about the noun man and identifies which man is being referred to. I found a book which is very interesting. The relative pronoun which introduces the relative clause which is very interesting. It provides information about the noun book and identifies which book is being referred to. The car that I bought is blue. The relative pronoun that introduces the relative clause that I bought. It provides information about the noun car and identifies which car is being referred to. The girl whom I met yesterday is my new classmate. The relative pronoun whom introduces the relative clause whom I met yesterday. It provides information about the noun girl and identifies which girl is being referred to. This is the house whose owner is a famous actor. Now you can tell me. The relative pronoun whose introduces the relative clause whose owner is a famous actor. It provides information about the noun house and identifies which house is being referred to. The restaurant where we had dinner last night had excellent service. The relative adverb where introduces the relative clause where we had dinner last night. It provides information about the noun restaurant and specifies the location where the speaker had dinner. I don't understand the reason why he didn't come to the party. The relative adverb why introduces the relative clause why he didn't come to the party. It provides the reason for why he didn't attend the party. Do you remember the day when we went to the beach? The relative adverb when introduces the relative clause when we went to the beach. It describes the day and specifies the time when the speaker and the listener went to the beach. The person to whom I gave my phone number never called me. The relative pronoun whom introduces the relative clause to whom I gave my phone number, gives information about the person and indicates which person is being talked about. As you can see, in all these sentences, the relative clause and the relative pronoun are giving information about a noun, right? But which noun of the sentence? The noun before them. Exactly. From this context, we can understand that almost always relative pronouns come after the noun they're about to describe or identify, and the relative clause comes after the relative pronoun. However, there are some things about this that you need to know. I will be telling you more about it in extra notes. Now, you might be asking, when do we use these pronouns? Let's summarize it in a table. For people, we use who or that. But when a person is the object of the sentence, we can also use whom. However, whom is no longer that common and it's mostly used in formal context. It's recommended to use just who. For pets, we also use who. For things and animals, we use which or that. For possessive nouns, we use whose. For places where, times when, and reasons why. Let's see some examples for each. I had a friend who was from Japan. I met a man that was a professional swimmer. Friend and man are both people. Andrew, who we met at the pub, is my classmate. Or Andrew, whom we met at the pub, is my classmate. Remember, we usually use prepositions with whom. For example, to, from, with, etc. We say to whom, from whom, with whom, based on the context. We have a cat who is very unsociable. Cat is a pet, so we use who with it. He baked a cake which was very delicious. He made a sandwich that no one could eat. Cake and sandwich are both considered as things. Pandas, which are black and white bears, are so cute. The sharks that live in that area are dangerous. Pandas and sharks are animals, so we use which or that with them. Olivia, whose hair is curly, is playing with her friends. Instead of whose, you can use her or his, their, my, your. If that makes sense, then that means our sentence is correct and our use of whose here is correct. So, if we say her hair is curly instead of whose hair is curly, that's correct and it makes sense. So it tells us that we have used whose here correctly. The Everbeen Cafe, where I usually study, is closed today. Everbeen Cafe is a place, so I say where. Do you remember the time when we went camping in the mountains? She didn't tell me the reason why she was upset. In a nutshell, we use specific relative pronouns with the specific types of nouns. For people, who or that or whom. For pets, who. For animals and things, which or that. For possessive pronouns, we use whose. Places, where, times, when, and reasons, why. Now take a look at these sentences and pictures. The blue cup is mine. What will happen if I remove that adjective blue? The cup is mine, but you might wonder, which cup do I mean? The yellow one is mine, the red one is mine, or the blue one is mine, or maybe the green one. If I want you to know which cup is mine, I have to state an adjective. I have to state which cup is mine exactly. The blue cup is mine. So, in this situation, it's absolutely necessary to use an adjective to point out exactly which cup we mean to avoid confusion and questions. Because if we don't do that, the person we're talking to will not know which one we exactly mean. So it's important to bring an adjective to identify which thing we are referring to. What about this situation? These blue dresses are not mine. What will happen if we remove that adjective blue? That's right. These dresses are not mine. Will it bring any questions to the mind of the listener? No. Will you ask which one of these dresses are not mine? No, because these dresses are not mine. All of these dresses are blue, so it doesn't matter which dresses are being referred to anymore. In this situation, where all the dresses are blue and there is no other dress with a different color, we can remove the adjective or not use it in the first place. In other words, it's not necessary to bring an adjective here. So we can say, these dresses are not mine, and there will be no confusion and no questions at all. The same thing will happen to relative clauses. Why? Because just at the beginning of the video we said relative clauses are like adjectives. They function as adjectives. Meaning there are some situations that it's absolutely necessary to use relative clauses to identify a person or a noun or a thing. And sometimes it's not necessary to bring those information. We will just give extra information. We describe things, not identify them. And that means we've got two types of relative clauses. Defining or restrictive relative clauses and non-defining or modifying relative clauses. In defining relative clauses, it's absolutely necessary to bring those information because it helps us identify the noun. We do not know about the noun, so these relative clauses helps us to identify them and to get to know them. But in non-defining or modifying relative clauses, we already know which person or thing is meant. So they just give us extra information and not necessary information. In this situation, if we remove that relative clause our sentence will have an incomplete meaning, and there will be confusion and questions to the mind of the person we are talking to. So, our sentence will be unclear if they are removed. In modifying relative clauses, it's absolutely okay if we remove the sentence and that will still make sense. There will be no confusion and no questions. Two very grammatically important things here is that in this situation, we do not use any commas. But in this situation, we have to use commas. And as I've already told you and you already know, we said we can use that instead of some relative pronouns as well. But when we are in a modifying situation, we cannot use that. Now let's see them in some examples. The woman whose hair is red is my cousin. The woman whose hair is black is my sister. In the first picture, there are plenty of women with different hair colors, so it's absolutely necessary to identify which woman we mean. The woman whose hair is red is my cousin. But in the second picture, the woman whose hair is black is my sister. There is only one woman in the picture, so it's already clear which woman we are talking about. Whose hair is black is just extra information. Nothing will happen if we remove that relative clause. We can also say the woman is my sister because there is only one woman in the picture. They wrote down the names of anyone whose blood type is O. Emily, whose blood type is O, came for a donation. In the first sentence, if we remove whose blood type is O, it will be they wrote down the names. And that will not have a clear meaning. They wrote down the names of who? People with red hair, people with blue eyes, or people with blood type O. That's why it's absolutely necessary to mention who we are talking about. But in the second one, Emily is already known. Emily, whose blood type is O, extra information, came for a donation. So it's absolutely correct if we say Emily came for a donation because we already know who Emily is. Whose blood type is O is only extra information. We have to invite all the guests who or that came to her party. I didn't see Caitlin's brother, who was wearing a black suit. If we say we have to invite all the guests, that would not make any sense. Do we have to invite everyone? Or should we invite all those guests who came to her party? So it's necessary information here. But in the second one, I didn't see Caitlin's brother. We already know Caitlin's brother. He was just wearing a black suit. So, who was wearing a black suit is only extra information. Henry wants to buy shoes that or which are comfortable for walking. Those black trainers, which Henry bought for his birthday, are not here. In the first one, if we say Henry wants to buy shoes, what types of shoes? Sandals? Boots? No. Henry wants to buy shoes that are comfortable for walking. In the second one, those black trainers is already identified. It's already known. Which Henry bought for his birthday is just extra information. And as you can see, we cannot use that here, only which is correct. And the last one, what was the name of the hotel where you stayed for the holiday? We want to stay at the Atlantis Hotel, which is located in the Palm. If we say, what was the name of the hotel? It's unclear. Which hotel do we mean? The hotel where you stayed for the holiday. But we want to stay at the Atlantis Hotel. The Atlantis Hotel is already a known place. It's identified. So which is located in the poem, is just extra information that can be easily removed. As you can see in the left column examples, we haven't used any commas, but in the right column examples, we have to use and we have used commas. However, in spoken English, it really doesn't matter if we use commas or not, because obviously we do not hear those commas. But it's necessary, especially in written English, when you're writing a piece of formal writing. So, in spoken English, it's alright, it's fine, no one will actually hear if you're using commas or not. But in written English, it's necessary to use commas, especially if you want to be grammatically correct. There are only two more things that you need to know about relative clauses that I will be telling you in this video. Now, before we get to them, let's have a quick quiz about defining and non-defining relative clauses. Pause this video for a moment and see if you can tell which clauses are defining and which are modifying. That thriller book, which you gave me last week, was absolutely mind-blowing. Right, it's a modifying relative clause. Why? Because the very first things we notice are those commas. In this situation, both the speaker and the listener know about that thriller book. But if there was a situation where the listener had given more than one thriller book to the speaker, then that would have been necessary for the speaker to identify which thriller book they exactly mean. And in that situation, we should have given necessary information, and that would have been a defining relative clause instead of a non-defining relative clause. Activities that involve physical exercise help us in having a healthier lifestyle. That's right. Obviously, you would say it's a defining relative clause. Why? Well, because there are no commas and we have used that. That is very important because we do not use that in non-defining relative clauses. Other than these, if we remove that relative clause that involve physical exercise, we will have activities help us in having a healthier lifestyle. That would not make sense because we might think, what kind of activities will help us in having a healthier lifestyle? So it will bring confusion and questions because we do not know which activities do that. That's why this sentence is a defining relative clause. That information is necessary about activities to know which activities we are talking about. Adam hates films which or that have predictable endings. This sentence is also a defining relative clause. Obviously, we do not see any commas and we have used that, but if we want to be more specific, if we say Adam hates films, that would not make any sense. Does Adam hate all types of films? Is he not a fan of fantasy or comedy or perhaps science fiction? He likes films, but he just hates films that have predictable endings. So Adam hates a specific types of films. So it's a defining relative clause. The old house where I used to live with my grandmother has a beautiful garden. That's correct. It's a non-defining or a modifying relative clause because we can see commas and that relative clause can be easily removed. We can say, the old house has a beautiful garden. The old house where I used to live with my grandmother, extra information, has a beautiful garden. But remember, again, if the speaker and the listener know more than one old house, then it will be important for them to identify which old house they mean. In that situation, the information we give will be considered as a defining relative clause. Rob's laptop, which he bought recently, is very fast and efficient. That's right. It's also a non-defining or a modifying relative clause. We see those commas, know that, And it's absolutely correct if we remove that relative sentence, which he bought recently. We can say Rob's laptop is very fast and efficient. And again, remember, if Rob's got more than one laptop and the speaker and the listener both know about this, then they have to identify which one of Rob's laptop they're referring to. In that situation, it will be a defining relative clause. Fruits that are ripe are sweeter and tastier. Again, that's right, it's a defining relative clause. I know that you know it by now. We see no commas, we have used that. And if we say fruits are sweeter and tastier, what types of fruits are sweeter and tastier? Not all types of fruits are sweeter and tastier, are they? No, only the ones that are ripe are sweeter and tastier. So we have to define them to identify which fruits are being referred to. A very quick note here, you might be wondering why I've said fruits and not fruit when fruit is usually counted as an uncountable noun. When we mean types of fruit, as in melons, citrus, or other types of fruit, it's correct to make it plural and say fruits. I also have a full video about countable and uncountable nouns. I will put the link down in the description for you, so you can check that out as well. In a nutshell, in defining relative clauses, we can use relative pronouns and adverbs and that and no comma. In modifying clauses, we can't use that and we use commas. Using or not using commas in spoken English will not make that much of difference, but it's important to have that in mind in written English. Now let's see. Can we remove a relative pronoun or not? Take a look at these sentences. The person whom I spoke to earlier was an old friend. Or the person to whom I spoke earlier was an old friend. The girl who sings beautifully won the talent show. Our subjects, objects, and verbs are. In the first sentence, if we say the person I spoke to earlier was an old friend, does that make sense? Yes, that makes absolute sense. What about the second sentence? The girl sings beautifully won the talent show. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It kind of lacks something. In the first sentence, our relative pronoun is being referred to our object, which is person. But in the second sentence, our relative pronoun, who, is being referred to the girl, which is our subject of the sentence. Meaning, when our relative pronoun is being referred to the object of the main sentence, it can be removed. But when it's referring to the subject of the sentence, it cannot be removed. The dress that she wore to the party was stunning. The house that has a big garden belongs to my grandparents. You tell me. The subjects are, the verbs are, and the objects are. In the first sentence, that is being referred to. In the second sentence, that is being referred to. So, in the first sentence, that be removed. And in the second sentence, that be removed. In the first sentence, that is being referred to the dress, which is the object of the main sentence. So it can be removed and we can say, the dress she wore to the party was stunning. In the second sentence, that is being referred to the subject of the sentence, so it cannot be removed. Great. Now tell me the last one. Everyone was impressed by the thoughtful gift that he gave on her birthday. The subject of the clause is, the verb is, and the object is, that is being referred to. That's right, that is being referred to the object, which is gift, so it can be removed. In a nutshell, our relative pronoun can be removed if it's referring to the object of the sentence. Our relative pronoun can't be removed if it's referring to the subject of the sentence. Well done, everyone. You've successfully come this far. This will be our last part of the lesson before we get to take a short quiz. Take a look at these sentences. I had a great day at the beach, which made me feel relaxed and happy. She told a funny joke at the party, which made everyone laugh out loud. We went to a fantastic restaurant for dinner, which had excellent service. The shop had lots of beautiful clothes, which made it hard for us to choose. In the first sentence, is that which referring to the noun before it, which is beach? No, it's not. It's referring to the whole sentence before it. The whole fact that I had a great time at the beach made me feel relaxed and happy. What about the second one? Is which referring to the noun before it? Party? No, it's not. It's referring to the joke she told. That joke made everyone laugh out loud. And about the third example, is which referring to the noun before it? Dinner? No, it's not. It's referring to the restaurant. The dinner didn't have excellent service. The restaurant had excellent service. And the last one, is which referring to the noun before it? Clothes? No, again, it's not. It's referring to the whole sentence before it. Because the clothes didn't make it hard for us to choose. The fact that the shop had lots of beautiful clothes made it hard for us to choose. So, keep that in mind. Sometimes the relative pronouns we use are not necessarily referring to that noun before them. They might be referring to another noun in the sentence or the complete sentence before them. Very well, now let me take a short quiz to see how much you've learned. Pause this video and do the exercises, then resume and check the answers. Well done, everyone, you did an amazing job. I will be putting more exercises for you to practice on our Telegram channel, so make sure you do. You can also find us on other platforms as well, such as TikTok and Instagram, and please do not hesitate to ask us any questions that you've got. We're always there to answer you. Soon we will be back with other lessons, other playlists, so make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for watching and have a beautiful day.